Miss Ferguson, I have to take a bathroom break. She said no. I was fuming. She was evidently on to my tricks. You see, I was slow at math, and I never won those board races. I had convinced myself that I was in a race that I would never, ever win. This day, I'd met my match, and I had to reluctantly drag myself up to that board. I grabbed a hold of the chalk angrily, lifted it up, and she began, 5,746 divided by 460. 60, 60, 60. The old bird had to start with long division, didn't she? Now, I want you to realize that the other 3 spots on the board, Jake, Michelle, and Tara, were already fastly working. They were like human calculators. Their world was in complete fast motion. They were quickly working to solve that problem. They seemed to know exactly what the answer was. The chalk dust filled the room. I swear I thought people were going to die in the front row. Now, ladies and gentlemen, things were quite different at my end of the board. After about 2 minutes, I was proud to have one of those numbers down, and it wasn't quite right. I think there was 3 or 4 more to go, but who knows? I threw down the chalk and I hate board races. That day, I didn't even finish the race. You know, doing something like that can make you feel like you're a pretty big nothing. Later that day, Mrs. Ferguson came up to me at lunch, and she said, Doug, do you know what you need? I looked her straight in the eye, stared her down, and I said, a calculator. And for the first time in my life, I heard the old bird laugh. She said, no, all you need is to find your box of confidence and to stop measuring your ability in math by how well others do in that board race. You know, sometimes in the race of life, we all choose to compare our ability to those around us. When we don't set standards that give us a chance to succeed, we most often will fail at finding our place in this world. Maybe you feel the need to compare your ability in math, sports, or FFA to those around you. Maybe you too judge your ability, your wit, your looks by what's popular, not what's right. Well, stop. Open up your box of confidence. Sift through the standards by which you measure your ability. Dump out those standards that set you up to fail and replace them with more realistic standards. Did I do my absolute best? Did I give my 100%? Did I live a life today that shows that I have clear direction and purpose? The choice is yours, FFA members. Everyone will have different standards. We just have to determine what they will be. Take the time today. Invest that time in your own future to identify 2 to 3 standards that are fair evaluations for your performance. You know, filling that little box of confidence with standards that give you a chance to succeed most definitely helps you to stand solid within your circle of control. But once you're confident, you just may find that you've outgrown that circle of control that you've been given. That's when it's time to put on some running shoes and move. Come back a few years with me. On January 10th, 1997, I looked around my life, made a decision, and took a first step. I literally put on some running shoes and started to move. I decided to take control of my physical health. And to do that, I was going to run a mile. Now, there weren't a whole lot of places to run a mile on the good old country roads of Sweet Springs, Missouri, but I found a few places that might work out. I mean, there was a half-mile track in the pasture out back, but I figured that would have been a pretty speedy program as I quickly learned to outrun the bull. Or there was the track that I chose. Now, my track was a little bit different than your conventional quarter-mile track. My track was 1/58th of a mile. That's right, 58 times around equaled 1 mile. I started running in the basement of our house. I can remember putting on my running shoes that first day in January and walking down the cold concrete steps into the basement of our house. You know, at 5 feet 5 inches and 250 pounds, I was feeling pretty anxious for my first run. I surveyed the course ahead of me. There were many obstacles. There was the pool table, the bunk beds, the house supports. There was even a little trip line there, the hose from the dehumidifier. I was going to come out of this new commitment with cat-like reflexes and the speed of a running deer. Well, actually, at 5 feet 5 inches and 250 pounds, I was probably going to be much more like a big hippo that plowed through any of those things that got in my way. But nonetheless, I put myself on my starting block. I waited for the whistle inside my head, and it blew. And there I was. I was off. I was running. Or, well, let's say I was plodding that first time around those first few laps. And you know, that mile was a whole lot further than I thought. You know, I found out that taking breaks is an all right thing, especially when you're a beginner. And sometimes those breathing breaks would result in walking, and then you'd try to plod a little more. And all the time you had to worry about hitting those different obstacles around the room. And I just remember feeling like one of those little gerbils on a spinning wheel. You know, I think at times I could have stopped, and that room would have just continued to spin around me. But something different happened during the very last 3 laps of that mile. I remember hearing a small but clear voice inside my head saying, yes, yes, I can. Well, I sure had never heard that voice before. You know, school had been easy. FFA had been easy. Getting involved, that was easy. But sports, fitting in, finding my place in that world, those weren't easy for Doug Kueker. What took 30 minutes that night in January 1997 now takes just 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, there is power in awakening that voice inside your head that says, yes, yes, I can. Start something new. We won't move forward to find our place in this world if we simply stand still. At the point you start forming one new positive habit, others are sure to follow. Now, maybe your habit will be running. Maybe it will be spending time studying a subject you don't understand. Or maybe it'll be spending an extra hour each week with your family. Whatever your habit is, invest the time today to identify that one new habit for your life and start expanding your circle of control. Well, there you have it. Sounds pretty easy, asking you to recognize the limits of your circle of control. It shouldn't be that hard to just open up your box of confidence and sift through the standards by which you measure your ability. Doesn't even seem possible, really, that it could take that much to just identify a new habit and start expanding your circle of control. But it isn't that easy. You see, life, finding your place in this world, they can't be summed up in 3 simple steps. Those just get us started. You see, the heart of finding your place in this world all comes back to a desk, a couple of circles, and an important choice you have to make this year. This year, you can choose to be the one. That's what the heart of this matter is. We move our lives forward from the inside of those circles out. That means it starts with you. This year you have to commit to be the one who seeks to know yourself better when others fear what they might find. Finding your place in this world relies on your commitment to be the one to know yourself better at the end of this next year. So FFA members, if you're willing to commit to be the one to know yourself better by the end of this next year, then show that commitment right here, right now. Show the world what you're willing to commit to by standing out of your seats if you're willing to know yourself better at the end of this next year. Look around this auditorium at the people who have made the same commitment that you have to know themselves. Imagine the possibilities if every single person in here followed through on that commitment. FFA members, it's time to go from feeling like that 8th grade nothing to boldly finding your place in this world.
I'm looking for a reason, roaming through the night to find my place in this world, my place in this world. Not a lot to lean on,